I was working for the city of Hialeah in a recreation department, and I was a recreation leader at a park. And I got involved in the union there, and I became a union rep. And because I did that, the management wasn't happy with me, so they found a way to fire me. So I went through a total arbitration. I got my job back. It was then that I thought I saw a lawyer who represented me, and I thought I'd like to be a lawyer who represents people who get fired from a job unfairly. So when I came back, I had one more semester of school to finish up, and I said, you know what, I got to finish this and I got to apply to law school. At the time, I met the woman who became my first wife, who was starting law school at that time, and I told her I never wanted to be a lawyer. And then after this experience went on, I said, you know what, I think maybe I do want to be a lawyer. So I got my degree from FIU after 9 years. It took me 9 years to get out of college. And then I went to Nova Law School and decided to pursue a career in law, and I wanted to do labor and employment. My parents were both Cuban. My mother came over here from Cuba in 1948. I believe my dad came over in 1945, and he settled in Tampa and then moved down here to Miami, and they met while they were working at Pan American Airways. She was working in what they called the hot shops that would make all the food for the planes, and my dad was a airplane mechanic at the time. And they met, so they're both from Cuba, but I was born here. I was born in Coral Gables, Florida, and I've remained we lived in Hialeah most of my life, and then when I went to law school in 1981, I moved up here to Broward County. I'm actually the first one to even go to college in my family. And so, yeah, I am the first one to become a lawyer and the first one to become a judge. And I'm very proud of that. Uh, my parents, for some reason, never really pushed me in school. They just didn't really take an interest in how I was doing. So, all through high school, I got C's to get through. And I just thought I just got to get through here. And then when I decided I wanted to go to college, I took a semester off because I was trying to find myself. And then I went to college and I paid for it all on my own. So for the 9 years I went, I paid for all of it. But there was a time when I remember a middle school guidance counselor said to me, you know, Robert, one day you are going to do well in school and you're going to find out that you really like it. You have a lot of potential, but you don't use it. So when I went to junior college, I had a semester where I got a 3.89 average, and I took 17 hours. And I looked at it and I remembered her, and I said, you know what, she's right. I did apply myself. I really do like it, and I really want to pursue my education. I never knew I wanted to become a judge. What happened was in 1992, there had not been a Hispanic judge appointed or elected in Broward County in 20 years. So there was somewhat of an outcry from the Hispanic community and the Democrats in the county to have Judge Lawton Childs appoint a Hispanic judge. So at the time, I had been an assistant public defender for 8 years. And my wife, who's now my ex-wife, Sharon Barassa, said to me, somebody wants to see you. They want you to apply to be a judge. And I said, why would I want to be a judge? I'm helping people a lot as a public defender. And she said to me, well, you know what? If you were a judge, you could help a lot more people. So I thought about that. I went and talked to a judge who was a friend of mine at the time and told him about it. And he said, well, why don't you do it? And I said, well, I don't want to get the job because I'm a Hispanic. I want to get the job because I deserve it, because otherwise people will say that. He said, what do you care what people say? Why don't you get the job and then do a good job, and then they won't have much to say after that. So that's what I did, and after 3 times in front of the committee, I got the appointment in July 15th of 1992. And I had an election September of that year, so I had to go out and try and reach, at the time there were 500,000 people in Broward County, so I had to try and reach all 500,000 of them from July 15th to September 3rd. There were 2 people running for my seat and had already been running for a year. So I was the newcomer, but I was the incumbent. So with a lot of work, hard work, a lot of help from my family and my friends, I came in second in the primary. And then in 1992, when Bill Clinton was elected, I got the highest amount of votes in Broward County for a judicial candidate. which is a record that stood until Judge Bober won, but by then there were like 1.2 million people, so it was a lot more people. But it was a hard-fought victory, and I won by 100,000 votes, and they had said a Hispanic could never win an election in Broward County, countywide, and I did. I'm in the county court, which is what they call the People's Court, and I believe that that is the first time most people come in contact with the court system. And I think it's so important because probably 40% of the people I see don't have lawyers representing them. So they come in with all these preconceptions about what it's going to be in court. They think they're just going to be able to say what they want and do what they want. And then I have to focus with them and be real formal and let them know this is how it's going to work. So I always explain everything to them. When I'm going to have a non-jury trial with someone who's never represented themselves before, I go through the whole process, explain it all to them, tell them if they have any questions while we're doing it, let me know. But I am going to have to be the judge, and they're going to have to comply with the rules. So being a judge gives you the opportunity to give people who come into the system who've never been there before the opportunity to actually see that the system does work, the system is fair, the system is not against them, the system doesn't treat people who have money differently or of different races or ethnicities, that I am a fair judge who will listen to you and will hear your case and will treat you fairly. You may not agree with the outcome of the case because I have to rule on the law and the facts, but at least when you come in, you know that you had a chance to be heard and you know that your case was treated just like everybody else's. I get to do weddings. I get to swear people into the bar. I get to work with the interns from Nova Law School when they come to intern during the summer. I get about 50 of them every year for the last 10 years. I get to work with lawyers who are law students who are studying for the bar exam. I have a mentoring group with them. I work them through the bar exam. I call them once a week, ask them how they're doing. I usually get 9 to 10 students at the time. And then when they pass, they always tell me that I'm the one who let them pass. And I laugh because it's really them who did all the work. But what they always say to me is, you know, you always called me at the right time. When I really needed your help during that time, you called me. And then I realized I'm not that psychic or that good. So I realized that they just always need somebody to talk to them. So I just let them think, oh yeah, I just called you at the right time, I knew. But I'm able to give them some encouragement and let them vent a little bit. And then when I get the interns in the courtroom, I'm able to actually walk them through a jury trial where they get to participate in every part of it. When we're picking a jury, I ask them to act like they're the lawyer picking the jury. We then go back in the jury room and I ask them their opinion of what they thought should be done, like if you were the state attorney or you were the public defender or the defense attorney. And I let them vent what they think is important, and I always learn from that because they're looking at the law with a very fresh set of eyes, and that's one of the fun parts, being able to take them through a whole jury trial from the beginning, jury selection, all the way through the verdict, and then we talk about the verdict and we let them talk to the jurors if the jurors want to talk to them. There was a trial I had involving a deputy at the jail, and at the time I had 9 interns in, and they were able to watch a case that was on TV, covered every day, and we got to go through that whole process of them being involved from the beginning to the end, giving me their opinions. And they got to go home and they would tell me that because it was on TV, their family members would say, hey, what's that really like in the courtroom? And they were able to explain everything to them. And they all had their opinion. It was like half and half as whether it was going to be guilty or not guilty. And they all gave me good reasons why they thought so. And in the end, the trial lasted like 3 days. And in the end, the experience they got from actually seeing a full trial, not only covered on the media, but in the courtroom, gave them a real good understanding of how the court system works. And I was very proud to be able to let them do that and talk about all that. I always think we need more. I'm seeing the change over 27 years I've been on the bench that we are getting more and more people who speak Spanish only or Creole. A lot of people in court need interpreters. I see more and more interpreters every day. What I know from Hispanic culture is that someone who wears a robe and is a judge is granted a lot of respect by people who are minorities. And when they come up and they see somebody who has the same name as them, or they hear their name, or they're able, as I'm able to do sometimes when we don't have an interpreter available, tell them we're going to have an interpreter come to help you. And I'm able to say that to them in Spanish and let them know what's going to happen before the interpreter gets there. And then I explain everything as I do with any defendant. Even if it takes longer, I have everything interpreted and they're able to get the fair shake that they need, so they don't come in thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. I always make sure they understand everything. So I think them seeing someone of their ethnicity is helpful to them, because maybe it lets them feel a little more confident that things are going to be okay. And I think that's an important thing for people who come to court. I don't want them to look at the judge and think, this person doesn't know anything of what I've been through. We have a little bit of all our cultures mixed up, and we've all been through certain things that maybe they have, and we can understand it a little better. It's so important because I've seen what's happened over the years here in Broward County. We had a very strong Hispanic Bar Association. We now have 2 Hispanic Bar Associations. I think they're now together. I'm not sure about the politics of it. But there was a time when CABA, the Cuban American Bar Association from Dade County, wanted to come up here and talk about why Hispanics weren't getting appointed here in Broward County. And both sides were going to work, both organizations were going to work together, CABA and the Hispanic Bar. And then they had some kind of little scuffle about something. And it was something minor that could have been resolved had they just talked about it. But because of that, they split again. And then CABA never bothered to step over the line again. And so we are left with our Hispanic Bar trying to make strides and do things, which they do. But I always tell young lawyers, because I meet a lot of them in law school who are Hispanic, and I say to them, I need you to stay in Broward County. And they say, well, I live in Broward County. And I go, good, I need you to stay here. We need leaders in the Broward Hispanic community, in the legal community. We need them. And they all say to me, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. But what happens is when they get out, they get a job down in Miami. So they go down to Miami, where there's large strength in the Cuban American Bar Association, and we don't have that same strength up here. Granted, we don't have as many Hispanic lawyers, but there need to be unified, everyone who's here, in order to make some strides, not only for Hispanics, but for everybody in Broward County. My advice to them would be get involved in the community even while you're in law school. And don't get involved in organizations where you just become a board member and just have meetings once in a while. Get involved in organizations that actually get out in the community, that do things, that provide backpacks for kids, that go read to kids, that help organizations feed people. Those are the things that I think are important in a judge, because you get out and it shows that you not only sit up there on the bench or being a lawyer and being above everybody, but you actually get in the community, working with people, doing things. When you go to fill out an application to become a judge, they ask you, what is your community service? And if you've been on 5 different boards or 6 different boards, well, that sounds good, but what they want to know is, are you really working with people and are you doing things? Because that's what makes somebody a good judge. They get the view from all points, of people, all cultures, and they see what happens to people and how they live and what they do. And they see that helping people is the thing that you should do, not only as a judge, but as a judge, I think you have an obligation to help people in the community and do your job at the same time. So I suggest they get involved. They can do it while they're in law school. They can do it when they become a lawyer, and just make sure that you spend that time doing that. And I've seen a lot of law firms now in Broward County allowing their young lawyers to take that time to get involved in the community and do things. So I see it as a positive sign going forward. And if someone wants to become a judge, who's Hispanic or not, just make sure you're out there doing things in the community, because there's lots of opportunities.